Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here today. I'm so glad that everyone is here. We're excited to have you and talk with you about graduate school. So this event is for everyone that's just interested in graduate school, interested in getting some more information about it, graduate assistantships, anything that you need to know about preparing for grad school. We're kind of going to give you a little rundown about that today. And then we also have some guest speakers that are going to kind of walk you through the process and stuff like that. If you have questions for each guest speaker, just raise your hand and you'll be called on and we'll try to get those answered.
And for the ones on WebEx, they can type their questions on the chat.
Yes. All right, well, without further ado, we will get started. Our first speaker today is going to be Tracy Barnhill, who is the director of the Graduate School Admissions. All right, and she's going to talk with us more about that.
Is it acceptable if I pull this down a little bit?
Yes.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming, especially those of you that are here live, going out in this weather. So glad you made it to, probably brought your boats in to swim, but I'm so happy that you're here. I'm going to spend a few minutes just kind of giving you some tips and hopefully some helpful resources on just kind of how to navigate and prepare for graduate school. So I'm not sure, and I know that there's people online, so forgive me that I'm not necessarily directing things to you, but I recognize a couple of you that I know are undergraduates. I know some of you are graduate students, faculty among this in-person crowd here. But to get started, navigate this thing. Okay, so just some helpful tips. One major thing that I can recommend as an undergraduate is to start the process early. As you are probably well informed that graduate school is very expensive. If you're not already familiar, it's a pretty big time commitment. So you need to be prepared for that. So it's really important that you are selecting schools and programs that are best going to fit your needs and your interests. So what can you do as an undergrad right now? The main thing that I could say is do some research. So out of the undergrads that are currently in this room, and Lauren, I'm going to pick on you because I know your face. So how many of you have an idea of, obviously you have an interest in going to grad school or you wouldn't be here, but at the end of the day, does anybody have an idea of what sort of career path or job that they hope to land? Anyone?
Lauren does.
Outside of basketball? You raised your hand. What's your name?
Daniel.
Daniel.
I wanted to do analytics.
Okay. Anything specific in analytics, or are you just broadly?
It's kind of broad right now.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that I wanted, and the reason I'm asking about that, because in doing some research, if you're not really sure, if you know you have an interest in probably pursuing a graduate education, but you're maybe not really sure on what that program might look like, kind of research your career, research those jobs that you're interested in. There's a great resource online. It's ONET online. I think it's put up by the Department of Employment, the Department of Labor and Employment. This is like a national database that can, is a great thing for exploring careers. You can look into kind of what the median salary ranges are for across the nation. It kind of gives you ideas on what types of degrees or what sort of skills that you need for those sorts of positions. And that's kind of a good way to start researching schools and programs for graduate school, because if you have an idea where you want to be, then you can start planning your path on how to get there. So that kind of segues into researching your schools and programs. For those of you in the room that are interested in graduate school, is anybody looking to cast their net wide? Are you looking at schools across the nation? Are you looking at schools closer, regional in this area? Are you looking at USM? Any idea? So one thing that I can say is the information that I have is really, it's going to apply to everything. I will say that when you're looking into schools, whether it's, close to where you are now or far away, be looking into the programs that are, are you going to be going full-time or part-time? What kind of, are you going to be going on an online program, or are you wanting to go face-to-face? So those are some things to look at, especially nowadays with the pandemic. There's a lot of online stuff, and if that's for you, you can pretty much go anywhere. But if you're wanting to have this in-person sort of experience, research those programs that are going to provide that. And I apologize because some of my notes are not on this thing right here. So another thing that is really important at the undergraduate level, and I cannot express this enough, and that is to cultivate relationships with your professors. I've come across a lot of undergraduate students when they go to apply to graduate school that you might have been a great student, you might have been a straight A student, and you've never had to necessarily bother your professor because you didn't need any assistance, you were doing great. But at the end of the day, when you get ready to apply to graduate school and you need that letter of recommendation, you don't know who you are. They know your name, they may know your face, they can tell you your GPA, but they can't really speak to your character. They can't really write a really good recommendation letter on your behalf. A lot of graduate programs are very competitive, so you want somebody that is going to, help you stand out in that area. So if you haven't already started doing that, I highly recommend that you start doing that. Participate in class, stop by their office hours, any way to start engaging and making this bond with them. It doesn't have to be every single professor. Clearly, I'm sure that you've all come across professors that, you just really resonate with, and maybe some others you don't. It might be from a particular class that you're highly interested in, but that is really a big recommendation that I have, because pretty much every graduate school, every graduate program is going to require at least 2 to 3 letters of recommendation. So those are the folks that are going to be able to help you out the most. Typically, those recommendation letters do need to be academic. I will say some programs, it's okay to have a professional letter of recommendation if your job really is applicable to the program you're applying to. If you're working at, Target and you're applying to a biology program, I'm not really sure that that's going to really speak volumes for you. So really kind of concentrate and start thinking about who you can get to write those letters on your behalf. Know what is required and start prepping. So that kind of goes back to your researching of your schools and programs. You need to be out there on the websites looking at these programs. You need to be learning what are the admissions requirements they have. What are those documents that they are going to need. Pay attention to deadlines. A lot of programs have priority deadlines at their school. And those are going to be, the first come, first serve type of things. If there's assistantships available, they're going to be looking at those. And usually your better students are on top of it and, getting those applications in early. Also, don't be afraid to reach out to a faculty member from another, if you're looking at other schools from that program, schedule time to speak with them, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a Zoom meeting. Gives you an opportunity to really ask questions. An opportunity to kind of get some more in-depth information that you may not necessarily get from a website. You really kind of want to know what types of classes there are. It's hard to just get a feel for the name of a class. They don't always, marketing 101, you really don't know what that is. It has something to do with marketing, but you don't really know. So, I highly, highly suggest that you're taking the time to do this. Again, knowing what's required. A lot of applications require a statement of purpose or a letter of intent. This is basically, I've seen it, like a lot of our programs, some programs will offer a prompt on what to write about specifically, but in general, a statement of purpose or a letter of intent is your chance to kind of write about your academic achievements, what your academic goals are, what your professional goals may be. I've had some faculty tell me that they really do, pandemic, another good example. I feel like we'll be using pandemic examples for a long time. You might have had a semester where you didn't do so great. That's kind of a time, without getting too deep and too personal, but if you can address the situation, because if they're looking at your transcript and say, oh, this person's been making A's and B's all these semesters, and then they've, had 3 C's this semester, address that in the statement of purpose. Talk about what that, what may have happened and how you overcome that challenge. Your admissions committee, that's what they're going to be looking at. They're going to be evaluating not just your transcripts, but, they're going to be looking at those statements of purpose. They are also looking at to make sure you're a good fit for their program, just like you're looking to be a good fit for the program, or your program being a good fit for you. The dreaded standardized test scores. Fortunately, a lot of the GRE, GMAT scores have been waived. A lot through fall 21. I'm speaking specifically for our programs here. Some programs will start picking that back up in spring 2022. But I think that a lot of programs are starting to kind of look at more holistic admissions processes and kind of doing away with the standardized testing. There's been some evidence to show that it doesn't, it's good to use it as a part of the admissions process, but it doesn't necessarily reflect a solid picture of your academic ability. I'm a prime example of that. When I went to grad school, my GRE score, I would be too embarrassed to even share that with you. I was admitted conditionally based off of I'm sure that and other things. But anyways, but I ended up with the program and, made a 3.9 when I graduated. So don't think that you can't just overcome that. Clearly you can. It's really about what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. It's work, but it's challenging work, but it's also very rewarding. I kind of want to go back and talk a little bit more on the value of graduate education. And I'm certainly not trying to freak anybody out, and I certainly don't want to discourage anybody from applying to graduate school, because I think that it's definitely a good thing. But I really do want to stress that make sure that your timing is good. Make sure you're ready for it. Make sure that you are, that it's going to be meeting the needs that you need to meet. There are some jobs out there, and I sound like I'm totally backwards. I mean, I'm not necessarily using this as a recruitment effort, but I just kind of want to fully disclose. That's why I go back to research those jobs. It may be, some programs, it may be worth you taking a year off, go out in the work world, get that job, get some experience, and then come back to graduate school where you have a better idea. I just would never want to see anybody's wasting a lot of time and money if you're just waking up and deciding, I want to go to graduate school. If you're graduating, with your undergrad degree and you just know, I've got this passion, I love school, I love to learn, then by all means, I highly encourage it. So please don't mistake that I'm trying to discourage anybody, because I'm not. But it's at the end of the day, it has to be what's best for you. So to talk a little bit specifically about USM graduate school, and I didn't put all this out there because it's all on our website. We have application deadlines just like every other school. Typically, they are open till about 2 weeks before the first day of class. That does not mean I recommend you wait until the 2 weeks before the first day of class. While some of the things you have control over, such as ordering your transcripts, writing your statement of purpose, you do not have control over letters of recommendation. Your faculty are busy, so you need to give them ample time to submit that on your behalf. So don't wait till the last minute. Our applications are open months in advance. You can apply nearly a year out. So don't wait till the last minute. Again, some programs have priority deadlines. You don't want to miss those opportunities. We'd already kind of talked about, just general requirements. And so the requirements for most of our programs, of course, are your official transcripts. So for those of you that are graduating from USM and interested in pursuing graduate school here, you have the convenience of not having to order your transcript. You don't have the cost. When you put that on your application, we're going to pull those transcripts for you. If you have attended a community college, we don't need those transcripts. You know, your transfer work, that's not something that you need to do. But if you are applying to other schools, most of them require an official transcript, so you will have to, you know, go in, pay that. I highly recommend, if given the option, you have those submitted electronically. The mail is horrible. It takes forever. Electronic submission, we can have them really quickly. Already kind of talked about the GRE and GMAT. I know that I think primarily most of you, and maybe online, are probably more geared toward maybe sport management or the MBA program. Forgive me if I'm wrong if you have other majors outside of that. But there is a list of programs that will be requiring the GRE scores starting in spring 2022. That's what to say. Check those out on our website. Resume. Here's something else that you can really get going on. If you don't already have a resume in place, start building one. Start putting it together. Start formatting it. Use the resources. We have career services, and I was just on their website, and I'm sure with the pandemic, they've put a lot of their videos and everything online for that purpose. But you can go in there. There's information on how to write a resume. You can schedule appointments to speak to somebody. You can submit your resume. They will offer feedback. They will help you, give you any critique that's necessary. But, put together that strong resume. Everybody realizes that as an undergrad, you're not hot, you're not working these high-level jobs right now. But it's kind of in the way you say it, you can come across. So even if it's just your part-time job that has gotten you through college, the focus is on the skills that you've developed. If you really start to think about it, you're developing all of these soft skills just in pretty much any job you do. And that's going to transfer over, for use in the graduate program, and things like that. We've talked about recommendation letters. So most programs at USM require 3 letters of recommendation. So you do want to make sure, again, I'm going to say, make sure you are selecting a faculty member that knows you, can speak to your character. I don't think there's been a lot of faculty members that I'm aware of, at least through, that have contacted our office, that have declined students I take that back. I have actually seen a faculty member, not necessarily from our school, that has, reached out to our office and said, I don't know this student. I'm not comfortable writing an email for them or a letter of recommendation for them. Give your faculty member a heads up. Ask if they would mind writing a letter of recommendation. Don't just expect it. I've had students ask, the Honors College Dean, who really don't know her, but because she's the Honors College Dean, think, I'm going to get this great recommendation if she'll write it. She'll write it. She doesn't know you. She's not going to be able to provide you the best recommendation letter ever, because all she's going to do is go into the system and look at your transcript and things like that. So it's really, make it a point to really be intentional about who you are selecting for your recommenders. Application fee. We have a $60 application fee. If you have been a McNair student, there's an opportunity for an application fee waiver. If you're in the military, there's a waiver, but for the most part, there's not a lot of waivers that we offer for the application fee, but I'm pretty sure you can expect that with any school that you decide to attend. Some programs may have, supplemental application documents that are required. I'm not sure if anybody is of interest, but if you're applying to a nursing program or things like that, they have a separate application that you have to fill out and submit. So make sure, again, going back to the research, you are looking ahead of time. I strongly encourage you do that before you start the application, so you have a little bit of idea what you're getting into, just to kind of save you some time and energy. So this is probably, I would think, going to graduate school, and at least if you plan on attending full-time, that graduate assistantships are going to probably be top of your list of interest. Highly recommend that. If you have an opportunity that you can get your tuition paid for, receive a stipend. I mean, you're not going to become rich on your stipend, but yeah. And you might even become more poor, I don't know. But at least you're gonna get your school paid for. So I'm gonna say that as a positive note. That's another reason why, if you're thinking about graduate school, apply early, reach out to the professors, find out where those assistantships are available. They are a limited number. Most programs only have a handful of assistantships to offer within the program, but also be aware that there are academic support units like your admissions offices, Office of Disability. I mean, anything that is not a academic program also hires graduate assistants. So, make sure you are exhausting all of your options, before you just give up if you don't get one, if you don't secure funding through your program. Scholarships. There are not a ton of scholarships at USM per se. There are some graduate scholarships. You can access those by just like you would applying for an undergraduate scholarship through the GO system. I know that particularly the graduate school awards too, different scholarships, but it works the same way. I mean, if you're familiar with the GO system, you're completing that application and then you're kind of matched based on the criteria of the available scholarships. And there is a committee review process, so just because you're matched doesn't guarantee that you're going to be selected. But again, you want to exhaust all of your options. I mean, the less money that you have to take out in financial aid, I think everybody would agree that's probably the best thing. But brings us to financial aid. Because sometimes the stipends are not as healthy as what we would like them to be, students have to live. So it's not uncommon for graduate students and even graduate assistants, especially if you're going to a school to, someplace from home where you're having, might be a more expensive location type of thing. Sometimes you have to take out that financial aid just to help with your living expenses. Again, it's not something that we recommend, but it is an option. I don't want to say we recommend, because it is what it is. I mean, if you have to take out the financial aid, then you have to take out the financial aid. Just to kind of sum it all up, graduate school information. I mean, you can contact the graduate school. Our email address is graduateschool@usm.edu. Our phone number to get a hold of our office is 266-5137. My name's Tracy. You can always email me. Always happy to help. I have students, not so many students popping in, but I do have students that email me and call. So, I mean, I certainly want to provide any information, any assistance that I can. Make sure that you're checking out our website if you're interested in attending school here. That's one thing with graduate school that I see with graduate students. We send out reminder emails, and I know everybody gets bombarded with emails, but we're trying to supply you with all of this updated information. I mean, and those of you that are in graduate school, I'm sure you've seen an email or 10 from me. So I apologize for bombarding, but know that whole intent is to try to make sure that you are not being left out of the loop on deadlines, upcoming events, and things like that. So, take a moment, visit our website, look through the pages. If you have questions, obviously feel free to contact us, reach out. So, that's pretty much all I have.
Any questions for Tracy?
Don't be shy.
So recommendation letters have to be from faculty members?
I'm sorry.
Recommendation letters have to be from faculty members?
Preferably, in most cases, yes. I mean, now, like I said, if you're looking for like an employer recommendation, like from an employer, is that what you're meaning? Or you really want to stay away from personal, like you don't want friends and family. While they can certainly speak to your character and probably can tell them what a great person you are, you need more of an unbiased source, I guess, that can speak to your academics or your.
What about coaches?
Yeah, okay, so coaches and advisors, I would say it really would depend on the program you're applying to. And Dr. Croft and Dr. Allen could probably say, what is your opinion, with being a sport coaching or a sport management program, what would your be, you're in the admissions committee, what is your feedback on
I would say maybe one coach, two academics. They're really looking at their academic side. We're not, I mean, we want to make sure that you're successful in the program. It's not because we want your money. Yes, we want your money, but it's not we want to make sure that you're successful. And so just based on, hey, he's very coachable is great for us to know, but we also want to know, how well did you do in class? How well did you understand concepts? How well do you understand, other things? So from a character standpoint, yes, it's a great way to show your character, someone about for your character, but from an academic standpoint, we're really looking for academic references. And, based on your faculty, we put a lot of stock in some of the faculty, especially from USM. If we already know the faculty members and they're vouching for you, hey man, that's a great recommendation letter. But also, it shows us that that you've built those connections with your faculty members and you work with them some and they can vouch for you. So it's not just a generic letter. Hey, this student comes to class. I've written those letters. Hey, the student, evidently he came to class and he did pretty good GPA. I don't know much about him. But so again, like you said, have a personal relationship with your faculty member. Just pick their brain, talk to them.
That really goes a long way. It doesn't mean you have to be in their office 24/7, but if you're engaging and showing interest in the class or, in the current program that you're in, I know that most faculty would be more than willing to engage you in a conversation and then provide support for you down the road.
Don't get an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend while you're looking at it.
Absolutely not.
True story.
True story. Don't do it.
So how early can you submit your graduate application? That's a question for all.
What was it again?
How early can you submit your graduate applications?
As far as when you're an undergraduate, I would say you could submit it as early as the semester you're graduating. So, say you're graduating this spring, you could go ahead and be applying for the fall 21 semester, even though your grades are still in progress. So just to kind of tell you with the process, when we're looking and evaluating your transcripts, we're looking at your last 60 hours because we're really focused more on what your major was rather than what all your GECs were. So I guess with that being said, if you had a hard time transitioning during your freshman and sophomore year and you just really didn't do great, you're not doomed. You still have time to, beef that up on the back end with your junior and senior year. But again, having a semester of in process grades for your spring, we're going to be looking at your fall and 60 hours prior to that. So,
Any other questions? Can I add a couple things?
absolutely.
To build on? When you email your faculty and ask for a recommendation, have a resume ready to give to them. Because if they're gonna really take the time and do a good job, they'll probably be interested in working in some of your other experiences and characteristics. So have that ready when you email and ask faculty. And the second thing, we talked about standardized tests, GRE and GMAT. You may be thinking, I want to graduate and go get some work experience and come back to grad school in 4 or 5 years. You can take your standardized exam right at whenever. And I don't suggest that you go leave academics and then try and take a standardized exam in 4 years. Your brain is not going to be in that mode. I don't remember how long those tests.
So test scores are generally valid for 5 years. Now, we do kind of leave that up to the department. So, if you took it and then it might be 6 years, most programs are probably going to give you that leeway. The only time I see where it's really, really specific is if you're in nursing or if you're in biological sciences, something like that, where you might be, doing a lot of lab research work. But again, the research part of it up front is so important because, like I said, more and more programs are kind of shying away from the standardized test. Don't prep for it. Don't spend for it. Don't take it if you don't have to. So if you're doing that research up front, you may be saving yourself some time and money and stress, at the end of the day.
So
if so you said apply in the semester you're graduating, correct?
Correct.
And when would you take the GRE that same semester if you have to?
So if you are sure that a program is going to require a GRE, you probably want to start preparing for that. I mean, ideally, your junior year, as far as, kind of studying and prepping for the GRE. Programs that are really requiring it, they're putting more stock in that. So it may be something, kind of similar to the ACT, but worse. In the sense that, you have opportunities that you can take it more than once. God, nobody wants to do that. But again, you have other opportunities, but the cost is more expensive. I mean, you're looking at, $230, $250, I think, to take the GRE. So, and that may be something that also puts you down a path as to which programs you're interested in. Somebody like myself, I'm terrible. I hate standardized testing. I can study all day and I can be a good student. But when you put me in a room and have to sit down to take a GRE, I have test anxiety and it's terrible. I'm probably going to opt for more of a program that may not require that, but still meets my needs and interests. So, that's also a possibility. If you are just dead set on a program and it requires, unfortunately, you have no other options but to basically suck it up and take it. But the earlier that you can prepare, there's all kinds of resources online that, for free, that can help you start studying. There's practice tests and things like that on, for the GREs.
Just because one program at one institution requires a GRE, another program at a different institution, same program may not require it. So to go back on Tracy, on the research, I would go to the school and interview faculty from that department, because you're fixing to give up a year or 2 years of your life, to make sure it's a good fit for you. It doesn't necessarily have to, treat it like this is, hey, I got to live here for a couple of years. Is this something I really want to do? And if you can get a GA, get a GA.
All right, so we have some graduate students that are here to speak with you, myself being the first one. So I'm actually in the MBA program right now, and I'm a grad assistant with the School of Marketing. So I have a couple different responsibilities with that, and so I'm a member of the Recruitment and Retention Committee. I represent the TriStar Marketing Student Development Program, so you may have seen my face a few times in class. I help with the social media accounts for marketing at USM and the TriStar accounts as well. And I also assist the Student Research Task Force with social media accounts and their content as well. And then I help kind of put together all of our events and set things up like that. I just wanted to follow up with what Tracy said. Do not wait until the last minute to do any of your application stuff. It's not wise, and it's going to reflect on that, and the admissions committee is going to know that you waited until the last minute to do it. The quality is not going to be there. So go ahead and get things done early, and make sure you, I applied, so this is my first semester, I applied last semester. Make sure you reach out way ahead of time for recommendation letters. That was the one thing that I didn't keep in mind, we were trying to rush to get things done for my application because I wasn't planning on applying. Just make sure you reach out months ahead of time to I would recommend 2 months to give them some ample time to kind of write those letters. I love the MBA program. I encourage anyone who is interested in applying for graduate school to do it. It's amazing. It is challenging, but it's completely rewarding and it is incredible. With that being said, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Jordan. Come on up and tell us a little bit about this.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, present. So I'm Jordan Mabile. Some of y'all already know me. I see some of my athletes. I serve as an athletic academic advisor here at Southern Miss. I do women's basketball and men and women's track and field. I've seen some of you around campus. I see a student manager in here. My role with the graduate school is just to be an advocate for it. So I've done management masters. I actually started on a second master's in economic development and absolutely loved both programs. I just recently took a break from the economic development program because I got hired on as a full-time advisor. I will be going back to finish that degree, but there were challenges in both degrees. As Makenzie said, Sport management, that program, I was applying for it. It wasn't really in my plans. To piggyback off of what Tracy and Makenzie both said, to start your applications early. It's best to go ahead and get your documents together before you start the application process so you can just have a smooth transition all the way through. You're not forgetting things, being in touch with your references, finding out how they would rather be reached. So if they would rather be reached by the phone number or by email, usually through different application services. Some will let you choose, but most are email. But when it comes to like reminding them to do it, different things of that nature, if it takes them a minute to get to it, that's one reason why you want to start early. I did want to touch off of the resume and the cover letter, your statement purpose. Those should all just be one page. When you're getting together your resume, my experiences with looking over resume as an advisor and going through these application processes, if you do wait to the last minute, it is going to be noticeable. I have been a person who it was not in my plans to apply, and at the last minute had to get a resume together. That's something that you guys should be working on throughout your collegiate career, adding different skills, different jobs that you've had. I was talking to one of my athletes yesterday. She said she didn't have very much work experience, but she does have tons of community service, and that counts too. So it's not just about speaking on your work experience per se, but what you can handle as a student. So yes, if you make good grades or if you have one bad semester, they can see on your resume that you've taken on more than just an average Joe who just looks at a book all day long. The writing sample, some colleges require a writing sample. I don't believe for my economic development it did, I can't remember, but from my sport management, I believe it did. Or maybe it was vice versa. But it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I would suggest APA format. The sport management program, while I was here, was a little bit more, it was a lot of papers, lots of experienced teachers speaking on their own personal experiences. So if you're interested in athletics, the most important piece of information I can give to you is to make connections starting now and continue to work on those connections. Dr. Allen and Dr. Croft can speak to this. I love their emails. I stay in good contact with them. They are great professors, and they will give you a good letter of recommendation if you keep that connection going. So that is one example that I can give for that specific program. Economic development is more business oriented, but you can, if you're interested in athletics, oriented towards athletics. So I work in athletics. I think like an athletic mind. Lots of papers in that one, but that one's really just studying an area and seeing what needs to be done and improved in that area. Pay attention to deadlines. Deadlines is the most important thing in graduate school. I will speak on my own personal experiences working as a full-time advisor. Deadlines never end. You will always have a deadline. I had a deadline for my grade reports on Friday and I missed it. I had to turn them in on Monday. My boss did not call me into her office, but if I miss that deadline again, she will. So keep those deadlines in mind. Get your things together before you start applying. And I'm not sure what the lady's name over here was, but as far as your resume and things go like that, they do like to see your resumes. As advisors, I've written several, as an advisor, I've written several letter recommendations. And even though I may not see you every day, I can see some of the stuff that you do outside of what I see you for. Let's take Lauren for an example. She's in 7 clubs. She's one of my athletes, so I can pick on her. She's in 7 clubs right now, and I may not see her every day, but I see what she's doing outside of the classroom and in her extracurricular. So I can speak a little bit on what she's handling at the moment when I write her a letter of recommendation. So think about those things whenever you're going through this process. Even though something might be a last minute decision, make sure that you have everything together and be reaching out to the folks on the committees. I know when I applied for my economic development program, it was a last minute decision. And I reached out to Tracy and she was able to help me. So even if you are last minute, make sure you've got it all together when you do decide to apply. So that's probably the most important bits of information and my experiences with the program. Both great programs. I'm a big advocate for graduate school. I encourage you all to do it. You can ask my athletes, every time they come into my office, I say, graduate school, graduate school, graduate school. It's not just about the school itself, but about what's going to set you up for success in the future. So, if y'all have any questions, I am here to answer those. No? Nope, okay. Did I hit my 3 minutes? Yeah, you got it.
All right, and next we have Gabrielle, who's also a GA and a sport management student.
I know we're running kind of over, so if anybody has a 1 o'clock class, feel free to go. I'm not hurt my feelings. But hey, I'm Gabrielle. I'm a sport management student here at Southern Miss. And basically, I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I came to grad school and more so on the graduate assistant. As Tracy said, one of the biggest things with the graduate assistant position is that it waives your tuition and it includes a stipend. And for those of us who are young and broke, we love both of those things. So y'all are already ahead of me. I always wanted to go to Southern Miss. My parents really wanted to encourage me to go a little bit further from home. So I went to a tiny school in North Alabama. And so when COVID hit and the music industry shut down, which is where my background is, I looked at going to grad school and the GRE was waived. And so then I was even more excited. And so now here I am. I will graduate this summer. My biggest recommendation for looking at grad schools is to talk to the department head. I met with Dr. Allen many, many times to learn about what the program was, kind of what I could use it for. And the biggest thing was talking to the department head will help you look for graduate assistantships. I had applied in the athletic department. They were already full. But then I got an email from the head of the School of Marketing offering a GA position because Dr. Allen had passed my name along to be included in the applications. So my job as a GA, I was hired more so to take over the internship program to try to help collaboration between students and in our community. I also do a lot of grading work specifically for Dr. Harrison. So I work with her to grade her undergrad classes as well as working on research papers and then some miscellaneous things for a lot of the other professors in the School of Marketing course. But the biggest thing I think is building the relationships with the professors. One of the things that Dr. Allen really pushed when I was looking at grad school is while your classes are so important, you're also using graduate school to build your network. So working with professors like Dr. Wong, who has experience in hotel tourism, is really important for me because I'm interested in traveling and working in the music industry again post-COVID. And then working with Makenzie, she's my desk partner. And so we have a great time whether we're grading or working on research papers or whatever. It's really nice to have a team of graduate assistants. We have 4 in our office. So when one of us has maybe too much work to handle, we'll lean on the other one and say, I need some help with this. Here's the deadline. The graduate assistant positions, I believe all over campus, are limited to 20 hours a week. There are some programs who sometimes ask for a little bit more than that, but technically it's 20 hours a week. So I would definitely find graduate assistants who are working those jobs that you're interested in and ask them kind of what the set standard is so that if you are going into a position that maybe they are working closer to 30 or 40 hours a week, you have an idea of what the responsibilities are that kind of go into that. Yeah, did I miss anything? I feel like that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Any other questions? Thanks so much for coming to the event today, everybody. We hope you got some educational information. There's a GA website as well for graduate school with information, so y'all visit that website for more information. Thank you.